Every year I find myself in the same vicious cycle. Around this time of year, the Call of Duty betas drop, and it just seems like every time that I try to get hyped, not even hyped, hopeful would probably be the better term, I'm just left to be bitterly disappointed. Now, when I really started trying to play these betas around Modern Warfare 2019, and of course if you see those videos, you'll know what my feelings are about the game. So it's really no surprise that games like Vanguard didn't fare very well with me, personally. And because of those previous instances of not enjoying those games and those betas, I find myself here playing Modern Warfare 2. And I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts about it. Although surprisingly, I am ever so slightly more positive about what we could get with the game if the developers got their heads out of their asses and put their egos and their prides aside, because this is exactly what this game feels like. It feels like an IW developer ego trip, not listening to what the community wants. And I think it could actually be a decent game if they just implemented some of the changes that I'm going to complain about as we begin this video here. Now, the first note I have here, and knowing me, you probably expected me to complain about this first. No dots on the minimap. I don't know why it's so hard for them to get through their thick skulls that something like the compass doesn't work in Call of Duty. The minimap has never, and I mean never, been an issue for any Call of Duty game, as far as I know and as far as I've played, until like Modern Warfare 2019. When Modern Warfare 2019 came out and there was no dots on the minimap. Hell, I don't even think there even was a minimap, if I'm not mistaken. At first, anyway. It was like anarchy. It was chaos. It was terrible. The way the games played just didn't fare very well for many different kinds of people's play styles. Me included. I'm someone that needs the minimap. Now, granted, you can complain and say the minimap is a crutch. You should learn how to get good, blah, blah, blah. The point is, I just want to play the game the way it's supposed to be played. I want to know where my enemy is. I don't want information about my enemy to be taken away from me, where I have to rely on being like this highly stressed out player trying to figure out where they're coming from the fucking footsteps, which I'll get to in a few minutes, with how loud they are, and trying to sound whore them, trying to determine whose gunfire is whose. That's just too much thinking to do in a Call of Duty. You have to remember, Call of Duty is a casual fucking game. No minimap on the game is like a death sentence for a lot of people, to be honest with you. And to be honest, when I'm playing the game and I'm just running into people, I'm like, where the fuck was this guy? That's how I felt like most of the time. I'm getting shot from behind. I'm getting shot from like different angles that I didn't even know people were there in. I'm like, how this would not be an issue if the minimap was just implemented the way it's supposed to be implemented. So for the love of fucking God, if you want anybody to actually like enjoy this game, put the fucking dots back on the minimap, for Christ's sake. Don't be like what Battlefield 2042 did at launch, and they decided to take away aspects of like the scoreboard or parts of the UI that were important to overall gameplay, and for whatever reason they took it out and then they re-implemented it back in. Granted, a much lesser version of what it should have been, but they still put it back in. It's not too late to fix what you fucked up, in my opinion. The sound of the footsteps. The fucking sound of the footsteps. Another complaint I have about the game. Let me be honest with you, man. It's really hard to determine where your enemy's coming from when everybody's using pretty much the exact same fucking footstep sounds. It's like, I don't know where my teammates are, and I don't know where the enemy is because everybody sounds like a giant T-Rex running through the map. I can't tell you how many times I personally use sound whoring as a way to try and get the jump on my enemy. And I can't even begin to tell you how many times it happened to me as being the enemy being killed by the guy sound whoring in the corner. For me, that type of gameplay is boring, like just sitting there waiting for people. Like, I just don't enjoy it. Please, for the love of God, just lower the footsteps, or even better, implement dead silence as a perk. The perk system's kind of a little wonky for me, but I think the way that they set it up, they could have easily implemented the dead silence perk as something that you get, or that you earn, I should say, later on in the match. I don't know why it's so hard for them to really think about things like this. Like, A lot of the issues that we're seeing in this game right now in the beta could have easily been fixed by just using common sense and thinking about what the overall player base would want. And what the overall player base has wanted for the longest time is dead silence as a fucking perk. So, again, developer incompetence, developer ego, both of those things get in the way of what should be a pretty decent game this year. The visibility. Oh my god, the visibility. When I was playing this fucking game the first day or two, I'm saying to myself, holy shit, it's like I'm playing Battlefield 5 all over again. Remember when Battlefield 5 had those terrible visibility issues for the first several months of its release, and they gradually fixed it over time? Granted, I still don't know if it's fully ever fixed, but it's definitely a lot better than it was. That is how I feel about visibility in Modern Warfare 2. This game is horrible with visibility. Now granted, some of the maps, the colors are pretty vibrant. The market map, very beautiful map, colors are great. However, the operator skins blend in to a lot of the shit that's on the map. As a matter of fact, the operator skins blend into virtually every fucking color in the game to the point where you can't determine if what you're seeing is an enemy or a friendly. And the way that the names pop up on the screen for your friends, you know, with these little dots, sometimes if a dot is behind somebody, but it shows up as like on top of an enemy's head, you think that's a friendly, right? That's what happened to me a couple of times. So, honestly, I think visibility is a massive issue in terms of the overall colors and just how the way the map is presented. The maps are really fucking smoky. Like, if you call in streaks and shit, the maps are super smoky for some reason, and it just makes it so much harder to see your enemies. Like, they really need to tone down the little smoke effects on the map and on the streaks, because holy hell, it's like I'm blind. I can't tell you how many times, like, smoke grenades are one thing. I can get that. Smoke grenades are one thing to get the jump on the enemy team. But having effects of smoke on the map constantly showing up, affecting your vision, is a problem for me, personally anyway. SBMM, skill-based matchmaking. Look, we've been complaining about it for years. I saw a tweet that pretty much sums it up pretty well. We've been complaining about it for several years. They haven't fucking fixed it. This game is more or less going to die within the first couple of months anyway from issues like this. So, you know, the proof is in the pudding that the player base drastically goes down within like the first couple months of the game to the point where, you know, they don't realize that skill-based matchmaking is the issue. For whatever reason, they keep putting it into betas as well. And the whole thing of the lobbies disbanding to continue that SPMM cycle, yeah, that's been an issue too. Again, if they haven't fixed it, they're never going to fix it. Another issue that I think their incompetence and their ego is getting in the way of making an actually good game. The maps themselves, man, the maps themselves aren't horrible. I'd say my favorite map that I've played is definitely the market. And then I think the second favorite would probably be the hotel. And then Farm 18 kind of would be third, or the museum map would probably be third or fourth. Those two could be interchangeable for me. And to be honest with you, compared to Modern Warfare 2019, the maps are much better. Don't get me wrong. I'll definitely give credit where credit is due on the maps. I hate them a lot less than I hated those maps, and especially Vanguard's maps. Those were fucking terrible. But there's some aspects of the maps that I don't like. For instance, the verticality. There's a whole lot of sightlines. I'm not saying it's Grozny Raid bad for Modern Warfare 2019, but the sightlines on the map are definitely, and some of the verticality places where people can go to is definitely these maps' biggest downfall, specifically on Farm 18. But it's just some of these places you can get into on these maps are just an average player should not get into, in my opinion, or should not get on top of. It's just, well, granted, some of these nerds can't get on top of anything, specifically a woman. So what do I expect, you know? They got to get on top of something, right? Might as well be a fucking high point in the game or something, but still, minus the terrible joke. Yeah, some of the verticality, I think it works on other games, like, say, Battlefield or so, but Call of Duty, I'm not really sure if some of the verticality mechanics they added in the game really help it out, especially considering when you're shooting an enemy and all of a sudden the guy's coming up behind you, and granted, this is where the minimap would actually be a fucking helpful thing to have. You just don't know where the enemy is or where they're coming from or where they're shooting from. So you really don't have any information because the maps have so many different sight lines and verticality points. It's like everything is intertwined together. You don't know where the enemy is on the map because you can't see them on the minimap, and the places that they're in, the places that they're hiding in or hiding on top of and these high points on the map, you can't determine if they're there or not because when they're shooting, you don't see anything. And then by the time you actually fucking look at the guy, he's fucking dead, which is another point I want to get into. The fucking TTK. The TTK is way too fucking fast. I'm dying in one frame over here, man. I can't tell you how many times I'm looking at a guy, I'm pouring bullets into him. I am pouring bullets into these guys. And somehow, some way, I get killed in literally like 2 shots. Or at least it looks like it's 2 shots. You would think in 2022, Call of Duty would have been able to at least relatively fix an issue like this, because this TTK, or whatever the fuck is being implemented to, you know, have to have you pour on bullets on these guys and you get killed in literally 1 or 2 frames or less, is ridiculous. You'd think developers would be able to figure out how to fix an issue like this, but I don't know. I don't even know anymore. Weapon recoil. Man, that weapon recoil is ridiculous. Even when I put attachments on the fucking guns, it feels like it doesn't do anything. They really tried to add like some realistic recoil to the game, and I'm just like, the guns are jumping all over the place, and depending on what sight you have, for instance, the M4 sight, it's like when you shoot a guy, you don't really know if you're still hitting him or not, and then all of a sudden, like, the gun is recoiling in a way where the sight isn't really hitting the guy anymore, and you don't know if you're making the shots, and then all of a sudden you're fucking dead. Yeah, I mean, the gunplay is alright. There are certain guns I really enjoy, but the weapon recoil, holy hell, that thing needs to be turned down. That needs to be really turned down, to be honest. I'm not saying they gotta be like ACR and Modern Warfare 3 laser beams with literally no recoil, but holy crap, I mean, they gotta tone it down just a little bit, man. Just a little bit. The perks. The perks I have a massive issue with as well, because some of the perks don't actually do anything. For instance, EOD and Battle Hardened. You would think that perks that prevent blast damage or tactical grenade damage, you'd think they'd actually do their jobs. See, in previous games, where perks were implemented to reduce the effects of some of those, they did their job. You actually noticed a visible change. Maybe the flash wouldn't be so long. Maybe the concussion grenade won't affect you as long as it's affecting you. In this game, there's like literally no difference between the flash grenade and concussion grenades affecting you. It feels almost the exact same length. And it's kind of annoying. The grenades and the grenade spam in the game is also pretty fucking bad. The explosive spam is pretty ridiculous, I'm not gonna lie, but it's it's bad, man. They gotta beef these perks up to the point where, you know, they actually have to do their jobs, because I can't tell you how many times I've thrown grenades directly next to guys and they've done no damage and the guys didn't have the perk, and then when I actually use the perks and I'm getting hit with flashes and concussions, and specifically the flashes, I think it's Battle Hardened that's supposed to prevent it. I could be wrong. Yeah, no, Battle Hardened doesn't do a damn thing. I'm not gonna lie to you. It really doesn't do a damn thing that I've noticed. I haven't really noticed any difference from not having it on to having it on, because it doesn't feel like it does what it's supposed to do, and I think they have to beef up these perks. And last but certainly not least, I know this video is kind of going a little bit long, but the player base. Every year, I keep thinking the same thing. Maybe, just maybe, I won't run into a bunch of wannabe sweats trying to hype up their 2 Twitch viewers, or they're trying to overcompensate from the fact that they've never touched a woman in their lives, or something. I'm looking at how these people play, and I can't tell you how many people are just bunny hopping everywhere. Bunny hopping to the point where trying to aim at a guy with the recoil is hard enough, but now he's moving constantly all over around. Like sliding, I can understand. Like sliding is what it is. But like all the bunny hopping and all the, just how these people play, how these players play. Like I'm not gonna lie, like issues in Call of Duty like camping have always existed since the beginning of time. Let's just be honest. But just how the movement system is now, it's like it's encouraging this type of play where if you don't have the reflexes, which I'll be honest, I don't have the reflexes to counter a lot of these things, you're fucked. And I feel like something like that can either make or break a game. And this can also just be an SBMM thing too. Like, I don't want to be playing against guys that are constantly fucking bunny hopping all of the time. It's just not fun to play. So, all in all, if some of those things could get changed, because keep in mind, this Call of Duty we're going to be playing for 2 years or so, until the next one comes out in 2024. And I'm going to make a video about this probably soon too. If this game doesn't fucking do good, this is the game that you're all stuck with. This was like the closest I've come to basically trying to buy a Call of Duty since like World War II. Yeah, really, since we're like World War II. And I'm not gonna lie, me doing this commentary has pretty much sold me on the fact that I don't want to buy this game, based on the fact that if they don't make the proper changes to the game itself, I literally have no reason to purchase the game. Because why would I want to play this game for 2 fucking years? Now, granted, there are aspects of the game I do like. And I do like some of these aspects more than games of the past that I've talked about throughout this video. But I don't necessarily think this is going to be a 2-year COD. It's going to be a typical cycle where the game's going to die within the year. And no one's going to fucking play it. And then the same people that are going to keep playing it are going to play it for the rest of the game's lifespan. So, I'm going to make another video about this probably within the next week or two, where my thoughts about this whole thing are, and this commentary, and we'll basically kind of just reconvene there, and we'll just have an honest conversation about the state of the fucking game, to be honest with you. With that being said, my name is Ed0626, follow me on all the social media links you see down in the description below. Please subscribe if you want to see more. Again, I'm not trying to be overly negative, but I'm also trying to be fucking realistic in what I expect from a game nowadays in 2022. And it just seems to me like Call of Duty developers just are the perfect example of just incompetence on a level of which gaming developers, it's like unprecedented. You know, you think CD Projekt Red is bad, you think Rockstar is bad sometimes. Call of Duty is like right up there at this point, man. Call of Duty has been up there, to be honest with you. They fucking like almost wrote the book on it. DICE 2 is in that list of people for me as well. So, anyway, let's have an honest discussion in a couple of days, shall we? See you guys there.